we're live on Facebook apparently, and we're also recording this. And I'd like to welcome everyone to this video or interview that I'm doing here with Oliver Manalese. Oliver, how are you doing today? Can you hear me, Oliver?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
I'm happy to be here. I'm managing.
You're managing?
I'm managing, yeah.
For those of you, for the viewers that don't know you, Oliver, can you kind of tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Oliver Manalese. I work with successful entrepreneurs who feel spiritually bankrupt, and our work together is about getting them to the point where they're building a purpose-driven lifestyle business so that they are doing life and doing work that matters to them. So, I got into doing this kind of work because I was in that position myself not too long ago, not too many years ago, where I found that I was achieving a lot of my goals, and yet deep inside, I just did not feel satisfied. I was not left feeling fulfilled by any of it. And I had to, I had to question the path that I was on, and it kind of led me to where I'm at now. I had to reinvent myself, and luckily, with a lot of guidance, a lot of support, I was able to break through that situation. And there's a lot of people who've kind of come to me for the last 8-9 years for guidance in similar situations. So I've been really blessed that the mere interest in helping people through these types of transitions has turned into a career.
Really cool. So this interview that I've sort of brought you into is something that I wanted to put out there for a couple of reasons. One, I believe we're going through a very unprecedented time due to the COVID-19 outbreak. I'm going through stuff just as well as basically everyone else in this world. This is a topic that, well, when I go live, I typically I give out real estate statistics. I give out information about real estate that relates to my clients, to investors, but this time I wanted to put out something live that was different, that was more personal, that was more internal versus external versus business. And although this could relate to business very much so, it is more on the personal side. And to be honest with you, I feel a little uncomfortable doing this interview, doing this live first and foremost, and recording it. I feel uncomfortable because it's something that I typically wouldn't record. It is something that I would typically do in a more intimate setting. And but I thought that, I think it's important to share this with the viewers so that maybe someone can get something out of this, and saying whether they get comfort out of it, or whether they feel like maybe they're not alone, or maybe I wanted to bring you in here because you and I have worked together for over a year, and I tremendously benefited from your guidance and your wisdom, and I was hoping that maybe you can shed some light, and maybe people can benefit from this conversation that we're going to have today. But I did want to mention that I do feel uncomfortable doing this in the sense that I don't want people to think that, hey, Andre, he's what does he think? He knows all the answers? No, I don't. And I don't want people to think I have all the answers, or that Oliver has all the answers. And I don't want people to think that, oh, I guess Andre is the go-to person. No, this is part of the reason why I felt uncomfortable doing this, is because I don't want people to get that impression that that I know it all, or I know where this is going to go, or I don't know where this is going to go, our conversation, and I don't know where the world's going to go, and I don't know where we are today. So I wanted to put that out there because I don't know. That's just how I felt that I needed to say.
Well, it's generous of you to share that, there's a level of discomfort in showing up, and you're the type of person who's a leader in your community. You hold workshops, webinars, you send emails, you provide value, you write books, as a way of guiding people. And I think it's, for you to come out and say, even though I'm on stage and, I'm I use my voice a lot, even in this type of situation. Interesting kind of circumstance, like even for myself, being a coach and being somebody who, like, my job is to help guide people. And we're in a situation where we're all kind of wandering in the abyss of the unknown, the uncertainty. And it's tremendously uncomfortable to not know the answers, to not know what to say. And I think what you alluded to, like, I think maybe people will get something out of this. And I wanted to show up because I think maybe someone will feel less alone. I think that's so important, because how many people right now are, stuck at home and maybe want to communicate, want to express themselves, want to find ways to be of support to other people. But then they get that kind of inner dialogue that you and I go through, is like, who the hell am I? Like, who the hell am I to think that I have something to say, that I think that I can shed some light on this situation? And to me, that's just tremendously human. I think that's just so human. We don't know what's going on. But I think having a conversation together about what we're going through, how we're managing it, how we're navigating it, I think it could be beneficial just to know that we're all kind of in this storm together and trying to find our way through it.
Yeah, and there was a quote that I've seen on Facebook, and I don't know if this is a quote that someone's written or anything like that, but it was from Lorraine. That's the post that I got it from. And she had written, we are in the same storm, but we're all in different boats. And at first I thought that, no, we're all in the same boat. Like, we're all dealing with the same issues right now, all the biggest challenge, which is this pandemic. But I guess that's the storm, and we're all individually in different boats. So, I'm in a different boat than you are, and for the rest of the world. And that really resonated, in that it kind of it was weird to hear that. But then once you really think about it, it's like, well, my profession is a real estate agent. It's very challenging for me to go to work right now, and being at home and starting to work from home a little bit, and having 2 young kids at home, and my wife, and thinking about my parents, my dad who's not young. I have other family members who are immune compromised, thinking about them. Like, the boat that I'm in is very unique in its own way, and then everyone else has their own unique boat that they're in as well. And when you start thinking about other people and what boat they are in, it brings you a different perspective. And for example, like, I have a family member who's disabled, in a wheelchair, and he's in his 40s, and he FaceTimed me the other day. And it was so great to see him, through FaceTime. Normally we meet up at least once a year for his birthday, and we celebrate it. But this time around, when he FaceTimed me, he asked me, how are you doing? How are you holding up? And, I would give my typical answer, I have my good days, my bad days. And but we're doing okay. Everyone's okay. And then he said, you know what? I said, how are you doing? He goes, well, this is normal to me. And I sat there and I was like, is that like what? It sort of hit home. Like it made me realize that can't just think about me. What are other people going through? What's my family? He's my family. What's he going through? And he's isolated all the time. He lives alone. He's in a building where he has 24-hour staff there to look after him, and he's in a wheelchair. He doesn't go anywhere, and if he does, it's with Wheel-Trans, and they take him, I guess, to certain places. But I guess now it's but for him it was normal, and he goes, this is my life, and now I guess you're experiencing a taste of it as well, of being alone, being isolated, and I couldn't believe it. At that time I was like, there's a lot more out there that we're aware of, but we're not really aware of it. And the reason why I bring that up is because I came across a number of different people in the last week who have a disability, and it just made me think differently. It didn't bring a sadness to me, but maybe it did, but it just made me think like, geez, like I started feeling grateful for certain things, and I started feeling a little sadness for other things. Yeah, so I wanted to share that. And
I think that's, what you are talking about. I think it really points to me, at least, the fact that we're going through different emotions throughout this whole thing, and we're gaining new perspectives on how this is affecting so many different people. So in one sense, being in this storm together, we realize how connected we are, how we're all going through the same kind of experience, but it also sheds light on the exact individual experience that's happening, how we're all kind of going through it very differently. We're all in our own boat, you know? Like I've spoken with like some of my clients and some friends this week, and what they're concerned about is very different than some other people's concerns. Like I can't tell you how many times I've actually heard this week where people feel wrong, feel guilty for feeling good that they've gotten this time. Like I have like one of my friends, he says, Oliver, like I feel like I missed the first couple of years of my kid's life. Like I feel like this is a blessing. It's so hard to say because there's so much tragedy and worry and concern for health and for the economy and all these other things. But I'm just like, I know my kids in a way that I don't know if I would have if this didn't happen. Their mannerisms, their personality, their likes, what they find funny, the things that we'd like to do together. And I'm realizing, if this didn't happen, what if it took me like 20 years to these fully grown kids and I'm just meeting them for the first time? And I'm just like, man, like there's so much beauty that's possible. And I think, it's really cool to see when people are really, I think, healthy and okay with it. But there's always that little ounce of, I should feel bad about feeling good. Like there's a box to fit inside of what I should be feeling right now. And I think just going through this, we realize, man, you can feel like blessed for the fact that I'm safe, my fridge is full, I have everything that I need, and be concerned of the fact that, well, I don't know when my next paycheck's going to come. I don't know how my parents are doing. I'm worried about other people's businesses. Like you can have, the whole spectrum of human emotion going on all at the same time. And I think that's that's the real challenge and opportunity that I see, is learning to be with the depth of our humanity, Like what was relevant 6 weeks ago before this landed here for us in Canada, what was relevant and important and top of our mind might be completely invaluable right now, might be completely inappropriate to think about or worry about, like goals and travel and, like whatever it is. There might be some things that they're just kind of off the plate right now, but then it kind of elevates some simple things like, we have some friends who came by the other day and they brought cookies. It's like, hey, are you home? I'm like, what else would I be doing, man? Of course I'm home. Came by with his dog and his wife, dropped off a bag of cookies. And I can't tell you how nourishing it was to spend 10, 15 minutes like on the curbside, just chatting with this guy, chatting with him and in the flesh. Like, oh my gosh, like I talk to people all day. I'm still working. Like that hasn't skipped a beat. But talking to people in person, such a different experience that there's a level of appreciation and savoring and just kind of like there's a different texture to it. Whereas maybe before it's like, oh, thanks, what a great gesture, awesome. How are you? I'm good. It's like, no, like now it's like, how are you? It's like, well, I'm okay. Like, man, like there's just a level of there's a pause now. I think people wait to answer. There's no more default. I think the like, sure, there's masks going on, but at the same time, there's masks coming off of like, I'm okay, man. Like this is weird. Like this is kind of weird. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like, and people were just kind of relating with each other in a different way, which like it's very, very, I think it's powerful if you look at it that way.
Yeah, and one thing that really got or hit home for me with what you were saying right now is the guilt of feeling good, because there's a lot of bad happening in the world out there. There's a lot of people dying, a lot of people being affected by this illness, and family members are being hurt, are being affected by this. And that's why I feel bad for saying this, but I feel like I needed this. And when I say this, I mean this slowdown. Because the last time I can remember that I had this slowdown was probably in 2007 when I had a surgery where I was out for a week, where I had no choice but to stop. And for the first time since then, which is 13 years, I haven't felt the need or the permission to slow down, to stop, work, my mind, my physical ability, my mental capacity. It keeps going. And this is the first time where I was actually able to put a pause on things, to slow down. I've been overworked. Even though I don't think of it that way, I just keep going and keep going and keep going. And until it has an effect on my family, my relationship with them, my kids. Like you said, that gentleman that you were talking to, like he's first time getting to know his children in a different way for the first time. Now, I could say that I'm definitely spending a lot more time because I'm at home now, and I'm seeing my children in a different light now. We're getting to do different things together, and it gave us some family time. So, but I still feel bad for saying this because I know there's a lot of negativity that's happening because of this. But deep down, I feel like I needed this. I needed to give my body, I needed to give my mind a break. So I don't want to have that come across in a negative way. And hence the reason why I felt uncomfortable with this whole talk that we're having.
Yeah, I love that you point that out and you're direct about it because, man, like there's a part of me that's very grateful for the pause as well. There's a sense of having less pressure. There's something about not having many options that simplifies our life. Like I filled up $30 worth of gas this whole month. which is highly unusual. It's like, where am I going to go? There's nowhere to drive. You know, there's nothing to do. So there's, you know, there is that like blessing. And, you know, well, here's the thing. There are people who are at high risk, and there's people on the front line, and we really cherish them for the work that they're doing. And like, even at the grocery stores, like I try to give them my attention and see how they're doing, and whatever, you know, just kind of connect for whatever brief moment we have together. And, you know, like if they're out there working their butts off, so that we can do our part, which is here, I think a way to honor them is to like truly squeeze as much as we can out of what we got. Cause we like, how many of us delay that pause? Oh, the next deal, Andre, you know, 5 more investment properties, and then I'll take a break. Like I used to be like that when I had my real estate business. It was, I'll do my round the world trip in the next deal. I'll take a month off on the next deal. And it always gets pushed off until the universe does it for you.
Yeah,
and this time the universe did it for us.
Yeah, totally. And another thing this brought to my attention was a new appreciation for my job. Whereas before, I'd probably be very tired and exhausted, where I sometimes dislike my job and dislike what I'm doing because I was overworked. I felt overwhelmed, and I was just spending way too much time and energy and not having a balanced approach at all. Now, I'm not saying everything needs to be perfectly balanced, which is, it's almost impossible, but there's got to be some balance. But having this time has given me an appreciation for what I do and the relationships I've built. And another thing I've realized is the worries and anxieties that I used to have before this pandemic were a little different. It could have been financial worries and anxieties that could have put some pressure on me. Believe it or not, for some reason, the financial pressure right now, it's not there, even though the work has come to almost a complete stop. I don't know why that is. I guess I've come to an acceptance. You know, it's something that I cannot control right now. But other anxieties and worries have come up. Like, for example, the simpleness of being able to be seen by a doctor right now. For the simplest things, you know what, you've got a sore throat or you've got an injury. Oh, I just go to the walk-in, or I just go call up my doctor. I'll go see them tomorrow or next week. Now it's like, I'm sorry, unless you're literally need a 911 emergency, we cannot see you right now. They've stopped elective surgeries. Like, that's, to me, that's scary. That's very worrisome. The slightest cough, if my kids have a cough right now, I get anxiety going all over me. I'm like, oh no, like, what if you need to be seen by a doctor? What if you have corona? What if I got it when I was going to the grocery store and I'm just a carrier and I've given it to you? And what if you need to go on a ventilator? Like, these worries are coming to me now, more specifically that the challenges of actually being seen by a medical professional right now. Those are some of the worries that come over me now, and they're different than they were a short 6 weeks ago.
What the cool thing is, the flip side of every worry is appreciation.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, before all this, how many of us knew how many hospital beds, how many ventilators, how many walk-in clinics there were nearby, how many people worked in these hospitals? You know, like, we took for granted some of these things, and it was just really easy. And like, that's a great thing. It's a beautiful aspect of our civilization. But I think the hyper vigilance and the sensitivity to the fact that there are limited resources, that there are real human beings who, like even just thinking about the fact that, well, if you work in a hospital, but you have kids at home, or you have immune compromised kids at home, or family members, or elderly at home. Well, that whole family is at that hospital because they bring it home or they bring it to the hospital. And it's just like, I think one of the things that, for me at least, it helps us realize, I talk all the time with leaders and entrepreneurs who will come up to me and they have like successful businesses, and they'll be like, Oliver, I just feel like it doesn't even matter. Like this stuff, I feel like I don't even make an impact. And I'm like, what do you mean? You have this huge community, you're doing all this work, you have all these customers, all these clients, and they don't even feel like they make a difference. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I think now we realize, like, in such little tiny ways, the act of being at home, the act of, limiting how many times we are exposed to other people, like going grocery shopping, being informed about what's going on, witnessing and observing how people react. It's like we're realizing that, who we are does matter. What we say and what we think and what we do, it all matters. Like, it all makes a difference. We all have a part to play in this. So I think as individuals, we realize our contribution to the whole, and we realize the impact of the whole on us as individuals. And I think, if anything, I pray that this is a realization that we all get, is like, no, you matter. What you say and think and do matters, and it has a profound effect on the world around you. And it doesn't matter the size of it. It's like it makes a difference in the world around you. So I think it gives us a sense of, we can be responsible, right? We have a responsibility. Like, we can choose to have an effect on the outcome of this.
When you talk about being a leader or having an impact on people, I've always had that little birdie, or my voice in the back of my mind that made me always feel like I'm not that leader that people might say I am, which I don't know if anyone is saying that, to be honest with you. But and then I start doubting, what sort of impact am I having in this world, or to my clients, to my database, to my network, to the friends and family that I have. So I still do feel that. And now, when I've given some more time to think about it, I've been feeling like, more and more, am I having an impact on people? I don't know if I am. It's very hard for me to see that I am. The one thing that I have felt, which has made me feel really good inside, is because of the amount of time I'm spending at home right now. One thing that stood out is I actually taught my daughter how to ride a bike, and that's without training wheels. And when we were first trying it, it was I was like, oh my goodness, like, how am I possibly going to do this? This is not going to happen. And then we just tried different things, and as a father, like, when I taught her to do, after it was the fourth day that it actually worked, the fourth attempt. And then when we high-fived each other, and I was like, I am so proud of you. And it was one of those moments that I will remember for the rest of my life. I don't even remember when I learned how to ride a bike, but this moment in time, I'll remember for the rest of my life. And that, I can say I had an impact on. The other stuff, I don't know if I'm having, I would love to think that I'm having an impact on people out there when they buy investment properties, when they find a home for themselves. Never mind just the real estate thing. If I was able to direct them or guide them to the right path in some way, shape, or form, I would feel satisfied. That's important to me. And it's hard for me to believe that I do that, to be honest with you.
Everything that you said, whether it's, the time with your daughter, teaching her to ride a bike, or helping guide the people that you care about, your clients, on the right path, notice that it all has to do with people. Like, it all has to do with relationships. And I think that's one of the challenging things for so many of us. It's, like, there's the grant study, there's the blue zones study, and they all show us that the biggest indicator for health and well-being is social interaction. It's quality relationships. And we have to redefine and reimagine what that looks like in this world, in this world of everyone stuck at home. And I think, how we're used to getting nourished in that relational way, we have to find a new way to do that, whether it's with ourselves or with those closest to us or doing it through Zoom. But man, like, if the highest contributor to health and well-being is relationships, like, we need to put that at the forefront, and the question about do I make an impact? It's almost like maybe the appropriate question is, am I making the impact that I want to be making? Because no matter who you are, you have an effect. No matter who you are, you're making a difference. You're making an impact. At some point, you just end up asking yourself the question, if it's part of your path, you end up asking the question, is this the impact that I want to be making?
That's a good point.
Right? Like that one gentleman I was talking to, my friend, he wants to make an impact in the business world, but he also wants to make an impact in his family life. And I think he really stepped into that in a big way. And maybe he wouldn't have had the opportunity if it wasn't for this moment. And I think, we're learning about the causes that really matter to each other and to ourselves. I'm really sensitive to the fact that I'm looking at, well, how does social isolation affect suicidality? How does it affect mental health? How does it affect people who are trapped and stuck with their abusers? What if school was safety and nourishment, like for food for kids, and being at home is actually dangerous? There's so many factors that we need, that I think it's kind of like being uprooted so we can actually see. You're like, wow, the way we've been doing things does not necessarily work. And until we're honest about it, we can't do anything about it. And it's like, if it's deep underneath and there's layers above it and we can't see it, because when everyone's winning, right? When real estate prices are going up, the prices are going up. When the market's going up, it's going up. Like, everyone looks like a champ. But when all the chips are down, things come up to the surface and you're like, oh wow, this doesn't, like, I can't tell you how many conversations this week, myself and my friends and my clients, where we're confronted with the fact of having all this space, not having much to do, not getting that sense of being needed in the same way as before all of this, not feeling the sense of having that level of contribution, because we're kind of limited in the way that we interact with each other, in terms of business and people's choices when it comes to buying and spending money on certain things. Like, that is all being affected, right? It rises up to the surface, like, is my business pandemic proof? Like, is my who I am in my soul and my gut, can I withstand, am I able to survive this? And I think those of us who have gone through breakdowns, rock bottom, our own personal hell, times without income, times with uncertainty, I think those of us, maybe we don't look at it this way, but I'm going to invite you to look at it this way, that you potentially have an edge. No, you not potentially, you do have an edge, because you've been with that fact that, life is unpredictable. Life is unknown. You're in the middle of chaos. You're wandering through the abyss, through the darkness, and you don't know when it's going to end. And like, on the other side of it, you realize how resilient you are. How many times have you and I talked to each other and was like, man, we're still standing, look at all the shit we went through. We're still standing. And, something like this, a lot of people are realizing, oh, my life and how I designed it and my job and my routines and all the things that I do, like, a lot of that kept things really smooth. But without that, like, I don't have the shield between me and the danger that life is. Sorry. to realize and learn these aspects about ourselves.
Yeah, this is what I was just reminded of is a story that you once told me about a lady who had 3 sons. And do you know which story I'm talking about?
Sure do.
Hearing that? Because
Yeah.
I
This
believe
is
there's some importance to that story that I think people need to hear it, including myself.
I was having lunch with a group of friends, and there's this lady there who was just so wise, and she was so jovial, and she was just dropping quotes. Like, just the way she spoke, it was quotes of advice, and you're just like, man, I like being around you. Like, I really like being around this person. And I stopped and I said, how did you become so wise? Her name was Eve. I'm like, Eve, how did you become so wise? So my friend interjects and she says, so Oliver, not many people know this, but Eve's lost 3 of her sons. And I was just like, whoa, the last thing that you ever imagine is, surpassing your children, like living longer than your children. And she just looked at me with a smile, Eve. She's telling a story. She's like, we wake up and my kid would be sick, and I'll say, it's okay. If you're sick, you don't have to go to school. Stay home, get better, fine. The next day, if her son was sick, she says, it's okay if you're sick, stay home. You can skip school for today. No worries. But on the 3rd day, if her son was still sick, she says, boy, doesn't matter how you feel, you're getting off your ass and you're going to school today. Which was awesome, because it's like she let her sons be sick for those 2 days, but it's like the 3rd day, life goes on. And so what she said was, she's like, Oliver, there are days where I wake up and I can't get out of bed, mourning my sons. Can't answer the door, can't answer the phone, can't go to work, and I take the whole day off. The next day, if I'm still feeling like that the whole day's canceled. I don't even get out of bed. She says, but Oliver, on the 3rd day, it does not matter how I feel. I'm getting off my ass and I'm going to work. You have to use the pain to propel you. You have to use the pain to propel you. That's what she said to me. And what that spoke volumes of to me is the fact that she gives herself permission to honor her emotional experience. A lot of us right now are making ourselves feel wrong for how we feel. I shouldn't feel this way. I should be more energized. I should be using this time. I should be working out every day. I should be doing all these Zoom calls. I should be going onto these webinars. I should be doing these Zumba classes, Zoom yoga, like everything. And like guilting themselves out. I should be more grateful. I should be less tired. I should be using this time to watch more Netflix. It could be freaking the whole end of either end of the spectrum. But what Eve is an example of is, however it is that you're feeling, honor it. Like, don't make yourself wrong for it. Like, be with that emotional experience, even for 1 day or 2 days. But she says, on that 3rd day, life must go on. The world must go on. Like, it's like on that 3rd day, it doesn't matter how you feel. You've given yourself all that time to be in that experience. If you still feel that way in the 3rd day, you got to get back to work. You got to pick up the pieces. You got to clean up. You got to go out and serve. And I think we all can learn from Eve.
Yeah, I love that story. So Oliver, I wanted to sort of wrap up our session and ask if you had any piece of advice for people in all the different boats that they're in. And I know that's a very general statement, but if there's something that's on your mind that you think you can offer, please share it. And I would love to do this again with you one time in the near future. So
Yeah. I'm honored that you invited me. I respect you. I love you, man. And I'm glad that we did this together. Like, to go back to what we said in the beginning, we don't have the answers. We're just opening up a conversation. We're kind of maybe just shedding light on some things that we might want to think about and talk about with our families. Maybe this opens up a conversation for people, when they're interacting with the people that they care about and catching up. But if there is something that I would kind of leave you with today, this is a time of healing right now. Health is at the top of our mind right now. And because it's a time of healing, I think we need to understand that healing requires a level of self-care. We have to care for ourselves in order to be able to care for each other. And self-care doesn't always look like, meditating and going for a walk and doing your push-ups every morning and drinking all this water and having your supplements. And it could be that. But I think we need to expand our definition of self-care. I think part of self-care and caring for ourselves, it actually does mean shutting off and watching a couple of episodes of your favorite show and turning your brain off from social media and the news and like everything that's going on in the world, separating yourself from your phone. One of the things that's really hard about being isolated is, what is there to do? The default is being on a screen, and the default is swipe down, refresh, or swipe up and just see what everyone's doing, what's going on in the world. And that is, we can easily lose ourselves. But I can tell you, and we have to adjust it, right? Like, before all this, I just needed one day separate from all that stuff, like social media and technology, and maybe just watch movies or just play music or, playing the guitar or be in nature or just like have unstructured time. Like, one of my clients, she's just like, Oliver, I do yoga and I just love the fact that I just lay down with my dog and just whenever the time's right, then I get up and I start making a meal, which is my favorite time. But like, there's no like, gotta get this done, gotta get, I think self-care does include ordering in and having a pizza and not having to cook today and not having to clean up after yourself today. I think self-care also means giving yourself permission to play right now, whatever that means. We have all this toxic productivity pressure. This is the time to write your book. This is the time to up your skills. And this is the time to double down on your business and your marketing. And all that might be the case. But if the desire isn't there, if you're fried and you're exhausted, I think part of us healing together means we need to blow off some steam. There's not as many choices to blow off steam, but you can. You can find a way to do it with your kids, with a board game, with a video game, with a movie, with a book, with just laying down or taking a midday nap or going for a 3-hour walk. So my advice would be to expand what self-care looks like, reimagine what taking care of yourself looks like, and give yourself permission to include large periods of unstructured time for you to do whatever stirs your heart and stirs your soul, and not just try to keep doing.
thank you for that. I found what helps me is talking to people, and not just talking with people just about how the weather is today, but about really talking about how you're feeling at that time and how they're feeling at that time. I had this headache yesterday that was bothering me, and one of my closest friends called me, and I told him, I was like, oh man, I didn't even want to answer the phone, to be honest. I was like, man, I have a headache. But we talked for about half hour, and I don't even remember my headache. It went away. I don't even remember when it went away. It just went away because I was having this good, meaningful conversation with my friend. And then when I got off the phone, I was ready to like be present again with my family. Because at that time I was like, I need to be alone. I need to be shut out, like close me up. Let me cover my ears. I don't even want this social media. I don't want this phone. Take it away. I just need to just like sit. And then so having meaningful conversations with people that you care about, that care about you, and talking about how you really feel, not just an artificial conversation, but really talking about how you feel, I think helps so much. So this is what I believe was the real meaning and intention for this interview right here, is to talk about how we really feel during this time. And I hope it gives viewers that feeling as well. And hopefully it gives them something that they're willing to go out there and have a meaningful conversation and talk to someone that they love and that cares about them as well. And hopefully you will feel better as well. And I send out all my love and prayers to people out there who are being affected right now by this.
And gratitude.
Yeah. So
for everyone who's being there for each other and being there for us.
Absolutely. And Oliver, thank you for doing this. You're awesome. You really are. And
Thanks, man.
Doing more with you in the future. Yeah. Thanks again.
I appreciate it, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too, bud. See ya.